Hey, motherfuckers, we got out of Patriots Day, the new Peter Berg movie starring Mark Wahlberg in his trilogy of movies about real-life people doing badass shit. And it's the story of the Boston Marathon and the people that were there, the victims, the police commissioners and FBI agents, and
the cowards.
This movie's directed and made extraordinarily well. A lot of people say that Peter Berg is the better Michael Bay and Roland Emmerich because he makes these like rah-rah America fuck yeah movies, but he makes them with genuine emotion and a better hand. Like, you can actually understand what the fuck his action is all about. But in this one, the dialogue is the closest it's ever been to Michael Bay, and the storytelling is a little too jumpy for what it tries to be. So there are moments when this movie's getting really fucking good, and then some weird comedic beat is thrown in there that just kind of derails the thing.
I agree with you. That was the one biggest thing that really annoyed me during this film. It threw you into the mix of, you know, we want to find these guys and we want to fucking get them down, bring them down.
So before we go any further, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about all of this. So if you want to just know our final thoughts and scores out of 6 stars, scroll to the time code right here. And you've been warned. When I was driving on the way over here and I was thinking about what this movie could be, one of the questions that popped into my head was, how is this movie about a tragedy gonna really differentiate itself from other movies about a tragedy? Movies about a tragedy go for the whole, we're gonna put you in the middle of this. But here's the thing about the Boston Marathon bombing. This was like the first event that I kind of remember social media being a huge factor. Like, you would see cell phone videos from the runners and people that were like standing right there. So these images of the bomb blowing and people crying out, we remember them kind of like as vividly as something like the minutes after JFK was shot. With that kind of intimacy that's already built into us about the bombing, how do they put that in sort of a cinematic form? And what I like is that Peter Berg decided to do what a lot of social media did, which was just kind of bring everybody together and take it from different angles and present this kind of like you're watching the marathon on TV and you're watching a documentary at the same time. Yeah. And for the most part, whenever it kind of sticks to that very handheld, sort of loose, you feel like you're a fly on the wall almost, it really works. Whenever this movie starts throwing out like movie lines or stuff that kind of just doesn't feel like a real person would be saying it at that time, that's when that movie kind of pulls away and I become less interested. But
they're in this FBI quarters that they made up so they could like do research and find any suspects for the bombing, and you hear a line that would not be said somewhere like that, and it just takes you out of the moment, kind of.
Mark Wahlberg, who's playing this cop, I think it's a made-up cop.
I think so too.
Because
otherwise they would have shown the real guy.
Mark Wahlberg is kind of like your made-up guy that connects all these stories of real people together. He's one of the cops that's at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Like, he's right there.
Yeah.
And whenever you see him kind of like walking in and then like the CNN camera is going overhead, it starts out from like a focus of like, this is where Mark Wahlberg is, but it pulls out fast enough that it just feels like you're watching like a Macy's Day Parade almost. It does the same thing that these disaster movies do, where you have like a cast of 20 people and you're cutting from their house and it's like blah 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 residence, blah 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 house. I think it's balanced pretty well. And I like whenever they go to like someone's house, it goes from that CNN style to that documentary style. So it feels like these are kind of like the behind the scenes of this event rather than something we made up for a movie as far as dialogue goes. We got a great fucking cast here too.
Yeah, we do.
Wahlberg,
Goodman,
Bacon.
Goodman.
J.K. Simmons.
Goodman.
Michelle Monaghan.
Who?
Oh, for fans of the Naked Brothers band, the little kid of the duo ends up playing the little brother of the Bombers. It was so fucking weird. Like, as soon as he shows up on screen, I freaked out because he looks so much like the guy.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary.
I know. Yeah, he does.
When he first shows up, you swear to God you're seeing the real guy for like half a second. And then you realize it's an actor, but fuck, did they get him? The casting in this movie is great. Mm-hmm. I think it's the best as far as like matching the actor to the real person. The most unexpected part of this movie is seeing the brothers' home lives. I think I have the most problems with them because a lot of the quote-unquote movie lines came from the younger brother, who's portrayed kind of like this pothead stoner, while his older brother... The
average American teenager.
Oh god, to an uncomfortable degree.
Yeah.
If you're gonna plan a bombing, you don't throw out these quips about like, oh, why are you driving the fucking Benz?
He was a little fucking punk.
It doesn't feel real. And especially because, you know, this guy's face was plastered on the news and attached with these serious bombings. Like, it was his face and then footage of people fucking being dismembered by shrapnel. And they're portraying him in this movie as this kind of like jokey character. I don't want to laugh at this guy.
I don't think he was being portrayed as jokey. I think he was just being portrayed as a dumb fucking kid who listened to his brother too much. It seemed like he was more conflicted to actually doing this or not, but then, you know, his brother would give him a pep talk and be like, hey, you're my little brother, you need to do this. So he eventually does it with his brother. I don't really see a good motivation for the fucking kid to do it. And the way he's portrayed in the film, I don't know if that's actually him in real life, but he was portrayed like a fucking 19-year-old, not a fucking 19-year-old who was willing to kill people. Several parts in this film, it cuts to other people that are tied into this whole event, whether it be the bombing, whether it be the aftermath. It goes from tense moment, and it'll show you one of these characters that might not be as tense, and that might just be a lot loose, and you're just like, huh? Because it takes you away from that intensity.
There are some moments when that feels like a stylistic thing, because we see all these characters at the beginning of the movie, like maybe the first 15 minutes, and then there are some characters that don't cross the brothers' paths until maybe like 40 minutes later. So there's a part of me that's asking, okay, do we want to just put a little more of them in between just so we can really feel for these characters whenever, you know, like shit happens to them? Or will that end up becoming too distracting in the middle of the moment? And I'm leaning towards distracting. The Asian guy gets like 3 or 4 scenes. Most of them I felt just kind of broke in the middle of the movie. Like, I didn't really need to see him trying to pitch an app to a guy or
and him
to go on a
date. Talking to this one girl.
Yeah. I thought the initial scene whenever he's Skyping with his parents about his car, like, that was enough.
And that was like the very beginning of the movie.
Especially because his car is what becomes integral to the connection with the plot, yeah. My favorite performance in this movie is Kevin Bacon, though.
He doesn't have that much screen time either.
I know, but he has such a great presence. He's playing the FBI guy in charge. He's trying to get a handle on the investigation to avoid public pandemonium. He doesn't want to release the initial photos they find of the main guys until he's absolutely sure that, like, the evidence is there. Because, you know, he's talking about this public blowback and these anti-Muslim sentiments. And he's talking about all the collateral that could come from releasing something like this too early, and like, what if we're wrong? And I love that he paid attention to that. There's this documentary about this Reddit thread called Find the Boston Bombers. And the whole movie is about how in the first couple of days after the bombing, there are people, you know, on Reddit grabbing all these news footage and putting it in one thread, and they were trying to help find these guys, and they ended up framing the wrong dude.
Really?
Yeah, they ended up framing this wrong guy, and it leaked to the news. And it got to the point where, you know, they found this guy that he had killed himself, submerged his car into the river. Probably not because of all the speculation and all the stuff that he was getting, but, you know, that documentary showed that a lot of people in kind of like this mob mentality, even when they're trying to do something good, can end up, you know,
doing harm.
Yeah. And so I love that Kevin Bacon is constantly fighting with John Goodman and Mark Wahlberg because, you know, they believe in the power of their city, as they well should, because Boston, portrayed in most movies, is that very territorial kind of city. You hold out for your own. I fucking love this kind of back and forth that's going on. It felt believable, and that was my favorite parts of the movie. There's this one weird scene when Mark Wahlberg's talking to the Asian guy after he breaks out. He goes in this accent like, "You need to get those motherfuckers!" And I'm like, are you really sure that the real Asian guy said that exact line in that way? Man, like, that kind of shit bugged me.
You gotta remember, it's a movie.
Deepwater Horizon, it started out that way. Whenever you have the beginning of the movie and all these characters are joking around, there's bringing out these bonds and they're really getting to know each other. But when the shit hits the fan, there's no jokes.
It's one giant event.
I think you could have kept it constant in this movie.
You could have, yeah. But, you know, at times, you know, there's going to be people that do try to crack funny things to people to just try to lighten the mood.
Let's talk about the good stuff in this. I don't want to feel like I hate this movie.
It was very, very emotional at times.
Fuck.
Started to tear up.
That scene whenever Mark Wahlberg's getting home, it resembles his scene in Deepwater Horizon when all the shit's over and he's just kind of breaking down.
Yeah.
He's such a great actor that shit got me. He's going into his house and his family, of course, is surrounding him like, what the fuck's going on? Is it Al-Qaeda? Like, who fucking did this? What fucking happened?
Yeah.
And he finally just snaps and goes, shut the fuck up! Get the fuck out of my house!
I agree with him on that.
And then he sat down on the couch and just broke down in front of his wife. And that got me. You know what else got me? They keep cutting back. One of the fatalities is an 8-year-old boy. And the FBI needs that body so they can, like, investigate to, you know, find out what the bomb was made of and help them find these guys. So they can't let the family take the body away because it's evidence.
We're going to have EMS take it away because there's a dead kid on the street.
Yeah. But one of the terrible realities of this, you can't. So they have this officer standing, watching over this dead body, and the look on his face is something that you can't act. That's just misery. And then the very end of the scene, whenever they're finally allowed to take the body away, he just does this one salute. And that said everything. And I wish a lot more scenes in this movie were like that.
Honest question. Whenever it started to show David Ortiz, you were going like, wait. Did you not remember that?
Oh no, I remembered it.
Okay, so
I just thought it was weird that they brought the actual David Ortiz in with Mark Wahlberg.
I knew that they were going to do that. I knew that they would show the David Ortiz saying, "This is our fucking city." Boston is a city that is together all the time, and you know, something that, you know, that hurts them, they're going to stand strong, and they're going to stand together. They're going to stand Boston fucking strong. And by the way, I will say this. I'm not trying to make any lighthearted things about this, because people did die. But I do believe they threw the World Series in the Boston Red Sox's favor.
What the fuck are you on?
They won the World Series that year against the St. Louis Cardinals. And I think, I'm just saying,
don't go there.
Serious as the tone and the actions of this movie, I do feel like that happened. Come at me.
I'm not a part of this. For once, the angry comments cannot be aimed at me.
Again, I want to just say, I'm not trying to make this any lighthearted than it is, because this is a tragedy. People lost their lives. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying I do believe that happened for the Boston Red Sox, for Boston.
It's a show of solidarity. The Red Sox, fucking royalty in Boston. But the way they started out that scene, it just cuts from black to a big, shiny, low-angle shot of David Ortiz just walking on in glory. And there are scenes in this movie where they cut to the real footage of what happened, but it's shown as kind of like a news broadcast, whereas this again, felt much like a movie shot. There's even a scene where you see Ortiz walking in the hallway, and there's Mark Wahlberg. The way that scene started kind of weirded me out. I thought if they had gone from black to showing just the event, showing all these people in Fenway Park, and then you see David Ortiz, I thought that would have been stronger than that weird kind of glamorizing moment. I felt it distracted from the emotion of the scene. It's not enough to destroy the scene in any way, but it was just a little too heavy-handed. So if you scroll to the time code, welcome back. We've been chatting about Patriots today, and right now we're gonna give our final thoughts and scores out of 6 stars. So I'm gonna start with my buddy over here.
It covers the bombing, the investigation, to the end of the manhunt. It was very emotional. It was very tense. There were moments that killed the intensity of it. It shows us how strong people are, how strong the bond of people who are affected by this tragedy are, and willing to catch these guys and bring them to justice. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
The strength is there. For the most part, this movie carries that strength and represents it faithfully. There are some moments that kill the tension, and there are moments that feel too heavy-handed for something so serious, but that doesn't make this a bad film by any means. I think it's the weakest of his real-life trilogy.
I'll give you that.
But I mean, when you compare it to Deepwater Horizon and Lone Survivor, I mean, those movies are fucking extraordinary. I'm gonna go 3.5. Go out, support this movie. If you're going to the theater this weekend to watch fucking Bye Bye Man over this, reevaluate your life.
There was a Showtime earlier today that was sold out for Bye Bye Man.
If you're a parent and you've got a teen, don't let them go see Bye Bye Man. Bring them to this. I know they can't get in, but this is a movie that's gonna make a better impact.
If you liked our review, please leave a like down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. You know, you'll be updated when new content comes out. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Liam has a link down below where he does reviews.
Next week, we've got, I think the biggest release is going to be M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, Split, which we're all excited for. I love The Visit, as stupid as it is.
It was good.
And the week after that, Tuesday morning, they're going to announce the Oscar nominations. And so I'm going to have a special video set up to discuss the nominations, who got snubbed, who we think is going to win, what fucking bullshit the Academy pulls this year, as they do every year. So keep an eye out for those videos. But until then, thank you all very much for watching. Have a good night and take care.
God bless America. And
Boston strong.